Hi, Eddie Matthews, General Manager with the Stratford and District Chamber of Commerce, and I'm thrilled to be able to introduce a true gentleman, a tremendous business owner, Don McDougall, who is this year's Business Leader recipient. And we'll do a more formal introduction on May 4th at the Business Excellence Awards Gala at the Arden Park Hotel.
Thank you very much.
When you look back at your achievements in the business world, what keeps you motivated? Because you're still so vibrant, and people love to still get out and ask you ideas and just pick your brain on a few things. What keeps you motivated?
In my time in business, while they were all different, they all had some common elements. Like, I had tremendous satisfaction from the teams I worked with, both at Labatt's in my early days, and there I would have, a different team when I was managing Alberta, a different team when I was managing British Columbia, and obviously a different team when I moved to London. But then when we took over Novatronics, 1983, it's now 40 years ago, that was a whole new experience for us. But we got to know the good people at Novatronics, and through time, got a tremendous sense of family, really, with the employees there. And we together were able to get a really good feeling of satisfaction. We all kind of worked together, played together, and enjoyed what we were doing. And we had enough victories to keep us motivated. So I think it's the team that you work with that makes your life enjoyable. And quite honestly, it's what keeps me going now. I've got I'm running, we operate Mill River Resort and PEI. We have an excellent young team there of, 40 and below. And it's just a joy to watch them, really.
Mm-hmm. I find that we've got the Chamber of Young Professionals, and I'd like to ask you this one. What do you look at? When you're putting your team together, especially the younger generation, what do you look for that you think will complement your team?
Well, the two of the best examples for me would be in the Stratford situation. Peter Van Drunen, who came to work with us as a relatively young engineer in the engineering side of the business, and rapidly came up through the ranks, trained and developed by Bill Aiken, who was with us for a number of years, and he's still in Stratford. But Peter became the president and just blossomed, and did the job better than I could have done it, and did it in a really sensitive way. The same thing has happened in Mill River with Joffrey Irving, who's there, and I could go to other places. I think the one common trait that these people have is that they're prepared to subordinate their own personal ambition to that of the organization they're leading. Peter Van Drunen would put himself out personally to see that Novatronics, had a quality product on the plane in Seattle, or had a quality motor on the Canadarm, or whatever, and whatever it required to do that, he would do it. Same thing is true with the others. So I tend to look for people who are who see the wisdom of being committed to the corporate goal. And I don't mean that in a financial sense. I just mean it in the sense of winning, making quality products that people are happy to get, use, and pay for,
Yeah, willing to go that extra mile. And that leads me to, I was just thinking, because I've borrowed a line of yours for quite a while, and I always make sure to give you credit. Early to bed, early to rise, you may never meet the important guys. Love that line. There have to be some great stories that go along with that, Don.
Well, there are. I'm not sure that this is. You may have to go to Bentley's to get them get the full story. But no, I maintain that relationships tend to be very, very important in all walks of life. And they are particularly important in business. I've seen so many businesses go astray because people have not been sensitive to the people they're dealing with. They're not sensitive to the timing or what have you. So it's early bed, early rise. Lots of understanding comes from being with people in that kind of a social circumstance. I'll tell you one little story. That we were trying to put a deal together with Anheuser-Busch for Budweiser, to get Budweiser in Canada. And they decided the first thing they had to do was come to London and check out the brewery and all of that. So Mr. Bush and his team flew up from St. Louis. They arrived in London at 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:30. So I don't know what hour of the morning they left St. Louis. And I thought, to be nice and show how cooperative we are, I set up the boardroom that myself and Mr. Bush sat side by each, and his 4 or 5 guys sat down one side, my 4 or 5 key guys sat down the other, and this was to share, quality control and other things. And very often in these meetings, when they're off the rails, and I could tell we were hardly started, and all you would get as an answer to any question was a grumpy nod. So I turned. There was one really simple question, like, where do you get your Beechwood H chips? Mm-hmm. And this guy said, I'm not prepared to answer that right now. And we're about to go into a long-term agreement. I said to Mr. Bush, I said, how come? Is that an unfair question? And he turned to me, and to his credit, he said, Don, I don't think you're going to get many answers from our group until we know what that thing is. And he points right in front of me, and in front of me was a teapot with a tea cozy over it, because my secretary was trying to wean me off coffee. So I pick off the cozy off the teapot. He said, what's that? I said, what's a teapot? That's my tea. He said, oh, we thought it was a tape recorder. Well, so they could have been on a flight back to St. Louis and a deal never done, and Budweiser went on to be the #1 brand in Canada. So all I'm saying is sometimes the relationship issues bury deals, and sometimes they make them. And it's really important to pay attention to them.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah. That will lead me to my next, because after a successful campaign with Labatt's, you were touring the country, you make it to Stratford. What was it, and you've lived in many spots over the years, what was it about Stratford that made you want to call it home?
Well, first of all, I had a long test drive, as you know, because we acquired Novatronics in 1983, and I moved to Stratford in 2009. So I was commuting for a long time. Now, the reason for commuting was because we had 5 kids and young adults, and we stayed there until they all finished their education. Stayed in our London home. We were in London for 36 years. So, and it wasn't that difficult a commute. But as soon as the time came to change our base, we immediately decided to look for an apartment, a lot, and build in Stratford. Stratford, from a business perspective, became my home really very early in the mid 80s. And we developed our whole, if you will, commercial relationships were all in and around there. And I got to know and enjoy, the whole, both business and social. I was active, a little, not that active, but a little bit involved with the theater, but certainly active in, chamber and active in other things. And I had a really good group of friends, many of them my age. Unfortunately, I'm talking about the Tom Orrs and the people that age group who really took me in and made me part of the scene. So it was just natural. It wasn't a big decision to make at all. We knew once we had talked about it for years. We just never got around to making the move until we were empty nesters.
Yeah.
But Stratford is, for us, we come from PEI. Stratford is just the right size of city from my perspective. It's got one or more of everything that you need, and it still doesn't have an hour's wait or a half hour's wait at the corner for the light.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And plus, we're still close to everybody else, and
Yep.
at least they're close enough to come here. So
Yep.
it's got the best of both worlds here. Ironically, you do have a book that's out, and it's filled with some amazing stories. It's called Don McDougall Business. Get it done and have some fun. And I know you'll be talking about some of this when you appear at the BEA. But one great story, and I hope you'll share it with us. One great story was indirectly about baseball, but involving country legend Charlie Pride. If you would mind just sharing, because I thought that was one of the best stories I've ever read.
Well, we were in New York, which in itself was kind of a miracle because we weren't invited to go to a meeting in New York. But we decided that we learned through the media that the key meeting for the National League was taking place in New York. And my lawyer, Herb Solway, persuaded me to leave where we were, which was in Florida at the time, and go to New York. So we get there and try and make it a little shorter. We ended up being invited by the president of the National League to address the owners, which we did the following morning. And they took their big vote. They voted 3 times, and they basically didn't get enough votes to vote for expansion, the National League to expand into Canada. Outside of the room, the American League, who had to defer to the National League for the market of Toronto because of the Expos being in Montreal. Once they voted, American League was open to them then, and they were ready to expand. So they were holding a meeting. This was at 11. Their meeting is going to be at 2:00 or whatever. Our meeting is over. The other meeting is over. I end up realizing the National League is not expanding and everybody's dispersing and they're going their own way. But I know this American League meeting is going to take place. So I'm thinking, I think I'm going to wait around and see what they do. But I'm not invited, so I can't go to the meeting. So I look around and there's a nice bar there, Harry's Bar in the Plaza Hotel in New York. And I thought that looks like a comfortable place to spend a little time. So I wandered into the bar, and it's a Saturday afternoon, at 2:00. There's not many people there. And all of a sudden, this guy comes in and he's sitting just over from me, and we're both by ourselves at the bar. And we start talking, and he said, "Are you here with this baseball?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm with Toronto." "Oh," he said, "I hope you guys get a favorable decision." And so we chat. I said, "Are you with baseball?" I said, I'm over here with the people from Houston and from Dallas. And I said, "Really?" So anyway, we chatted. "Yeah, I go to spring training with them," and so on. We ended up leaving. It wasn't until after he left, I realized somebody else told me, said, "Do you know Charlie Pride?" I said, "No, I didn't know Charlie. Didn't know him. This is who I was talking to all afternoon in the bar."
He used to play at Western Fair in London.
Yeah.
Is anybody going to San Antonio?
And he was one of my favorites too. But as you know, when he started, they weren't sending his picture around with his music because it was felt that he wouldn't get fair treatment. And anyway, we've gotten to know him better through the listening to his music ever since.
It's an awesome book. Can't recommend it enough. So folks, go and have a look at it. And before I let you go, Don, in the book you mentioned a life of accomplishments is full of life, of which work is an important but a small part. Have some fun with it. Do you find that people need to take a step back and then don't take things too seriously?
Yeah. Yeah, the answer is yes. Like, I think, I don't think you could, we all just go through this veil of tears once. And I think some people make work a substitute for life. Like, life is the whole thing. But work is a piece of it. it's important to have enjoyable work and fulfilling work and to be satisfied if your relationships are working and all of that. But it's still just a small part of your total life. So it's a mistake to get so caught up that a little bump in the road in your work life can throw you off for the rest of everything else in your life, you know? So I maintain balance is a really, really important attribute.
Don, I can't say congratulations enough here on being this year's recipient. Looking forward to congratulating you in person on May the 4th at the Business Excellence Awards Gala. Congratulations, Don.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. We're looking forward to seeing you and all of our Stratford friends on May 4th.
Yeah, good to see you. Don McDougall joining us. I'm Eddie Matthews. Thank you so much for watching.